Hello there, everybody, and welcome to the entertainment headquarters, and welcome to the very special double feature Bill Skarsgård special film reviews. And the reason I've decided to do this is because at the minute there's a lot of controversy and a lot of talk out there about one of the films I'm about to look at, and both these films star Bill Skarsgård, and one of them, like I say, is getting universally panned, and the other one, I believe, is a film when it was released didn't get enough, praise, attention, and wasn't looked at enough, and I wanted to push it out there. And I wanted it to give it, some light for those that may not have given this film a chance. So the two films, of course, I'm talking about are none other than The Crow, which, is not doing too great right now. And the second movie is this one. It is Boy Kills World, which I'll be honest, straight off the top of my head, was a really enjoyable movie. So let's talk a little bit about Bill Skarsgård first and foremost. First and foremost, I find him to be quite a fine actor, quite, a talented actor, a versatile actor. I didn't really take much notice of him until, of course, he did another remake, It, where he played Pennywise the Clown. Now, of course, Tim Curry's version of Pennywise for a lot of people is the definitive version of the character. Just like you have Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger, you couldn't imagine anybody else in that role. So despite that, I do believe Bill Skarsgård did an excellent job at bringing his version of Pennywise to light. And I do believe as time goes by, his version will be looked on just as fondly as the version from, Tim Curry's version of It. And of course, there is an It television show coming called Welcome to Derry, which I believe Bill Skarsgård is an executive producer and is also returning as Pennywise. But, some people like Bill Skarsgård, some people don't like Bill Skarsgård. But like I say, I found him to be quite a versatile actor. And I didn't notice him till It, but then he's been in John Wick. He played the villain in that in John Wick 4, and I thought he did a really good job as the slime ball member of the High Table. And, very cocky, very self-confident of himself. And he got the he got the death that he deserved by film's end. And of course, now he's in Boys Kill World and he's in The Crow. And even Bill Skarsgård has come out and said he wasn't happy with the result of The Crow himself, which he's been having words with online, having to defend himself against the director, who then went out against him for the comments that he's made about the movie. So, it's not always the actor's fault that a movie turns out to be bad. Another film I can think of, Hellboy 2019, I think David Harbour was a great choice to replace Ron Perlman in the reboot of that franchise, which I'm a huge Hellboy fan. And, as Hellboy himself, Ron Perlman did a great job, but he made it more slapstick, more comedic, where the character's meant to be more serious with, a little bit of humor here and there. And I enjoyed David Harbour's performance. And now we're getting a third actor playing Hellboy. The name of it skips my mind, but the one thing about this Hellboy coming out, Mike Mignola, who was the creator of the Hellboy character, and the graphic novels and the comic books, he's classing this as his definitive version of Hellboy. It's the Hellboy he always wanted to see off the page, on the screen. And if you haven't checked out my trailer reactions, go ahead and check them out, because this Hellboy looks different to what we've had in the past. It's a lot more dark and has Evil Dead vibes. But back to this, Bill Skarsgård, a fine actor in my opinion, and just like Christopher Lee always said, you can be a great actor, and every great actor has to make a terrible film, but the key is to never be terrible in them. So let's take a look at, first and foremost, Boy Kills World.
Lovely. This feels important. This is the whole plan.
You cannot go in guns a-blazing. Security's going to be airtight.
Deeply confused.
I saw this man take down an entire squad.
I did do that.
He killed over 100 men
Slight exaggeration.
with his bare hands.
Definitely not true. Wait,
You forget who controls the narrative.
not exactly how I plan to go.
Deal with him accordingly.
And lights.
Shit.
Rejoice!
Fuck!
Read my lips.
You petulant little shit.
Repeat the mantra. I am an instrument shaped for a... Damn it. You gotta admit that was cool.
Yeah, it really was cool, and it's a really fun movie to me. It's, just an adrenaline ride of just comedy, action, over the top gore, and just amazing performances, including Bill Skarsgård. So let's talk about the movie and get into it. Boy Kills World is a 2024 dystopian action comedy film directed by Maurice Moore. In his directorial debut from a screenplay by Tyler Burton Smith, based on a story by Aaron Remaz and Maurice Moore, the film stars Bill Skarsgård, Jessica Roth, Michelle Dougherty, Brett Gelman, Isaiah Mustafa, Yahya Zan Ruhan, Andrew Koji, Sholto Copley, and Famke Janssen, as plays Jean Grey in the X-Men series. The plot revolves around a campaign of vengeance enacted by a martial arts expert, rendered deaf-mute by an attack that killed his entire family, whose thoughts are presented as an inner voice derived from a childhood video game. And that's another brilliant thing about this. It feels like a live action video game. It feels like Streets of Rage, Street Fighter, all joined together. It feels like Hunger Games because of the dystopian background of this story. It feels like Kick-Ass with the comedy moments, and it's got just over the top action and gore like Kill Bill. And I thoroughly enjoyed this movie for what it was. It's a movie that doesn't take itself too serious. Now, the great thing about Bill Skarsgård in this movie is that he, in his acting ability and performances, he doesn't speak a word in this movie because, like it says at the beginning of the movie, it starts off with flashbacks of him basically watching his sister and his mother be taken down by the Van der Kooi family. Now, the Van der Kooi family are obviously the rich, corporation type family that run a cereal company who kind of control the city, have it locked down, have it all controlled under their power. And anyone that goes against the family, once a year, they do an event called the Cullen, which is a live televised, basically massacre, where they have a stage set up that with furry animals and they make it look like a cartoon or a kiddies television show. They release the people that they've, decided to pick and targeted to be a part of the Cullen. And when they're released onto this stage, these I guess assassins and people who work for the Van der Koois come in dressed up as pirates or cartoon characters, and they basically go to town on these innocent people and wipe them all out. And of course, Boy, who is now deaf and mute, he is able to survive the massacre or survive the death of his mother and his sister, and he escapes into the forest and basically meets a shaman, and the shaman begins to teach him the ways of martial arts so he can enact his vengeance. But the key of this whole film for me is not just the physical acting of Bill Skarsgård as Boy, the character, but it's also of the voice actor. The voice actor, I believe, is the same actor who voices Bob's Burgers, who, he's very funny in the comedy timing with the acting from Bill Skarsgård works perfectly. It's perfectly timed. So just a look of the eyes, a tweak of the neck, or a facial expression, and then the voiceover, which is basically the inner child of Bill Skarsgård, basically locked down in himself because being taught by the shaman, he's had to basically lock up all of his inner emotions, all of his childhood feelings, and suppress them inside to become like a killing machine. But on the outside, we don't see what's going on the inside, and what we're seeing on the inside is basically his mind working, and you see different images. You see you see his sister who had been murdered. You see her is next to him, talking to him, in like his conscience, and at the same time you have the actor who does the voice of Bob's Burgers is the voice coming out, which you heard in the trailer there, and it works and blends in perfectly with the acting. The film, like I said, doesn't take itself too serious. It is what it is. It's just this over-the-top action comedy, which was just a thrill ride. So the beauty about this, though, is Bill Skarsgård. I don't know if while he was making this, if he was also, because I didn't really see a physical change in him from Pennywise to when he was in John Wick. So I don't know. Obviously, he was fully clothed in those films, but obviously this was Bill Skarsgård prior to, I guess, not Kill Bill, sorry, John Wick and that, and then he was obviously cast in this. And I don't know if it was this or John Wick, but he suddenly literally transformed his body into this, which you've seen many times with a lot of great actors where they've actually transformed the body to fit a role. And, the action in this is fantastic. You know, there's him doing his training montage with the shaman. There's some great fight choreography in this, some great action sequences in this. It really just is an amazing, amazing action comedy film that deserves a lot more attention than it gets. Of course, this actor, that is Boy as a young child, who was played by the young actor who appeared in he appears in The Boys. He's called Cameron Crovetti. He plays the son of Butcher in that show. You see a lot of flashbacks with him as a child, and you kind of just getting a picture of what the events have transpired to in the past through him and the flashbacks. You know, and then as the story progresses, you start to see more of things that's gone on. And honestly, there's a few twists and turns. So let's talk about a few of the other characters. So obviously, this is the head of the Van der Kooi family, who was played brilliantly by Famke Janssen, who's from X-Men fame. She is the leader of the Van der Kooi family, and that is who Boy wishes to get his hands on. Unfortunately, she's went into hiding. So while she's in hiding, she has her other members of the Van der Kooi family. So first and foremost, you have this character who is I guess she's the daughter. She must be the daughter of the leader of the Van der Kooi family. So obviously, Hilda Van der Kooi, sorry, is Famke Janssen's character, and then this character is Melanie Van der Kooi, who's played by Michelle Doherty. She basically is like the right-hand woman. She basically runs everything. She's in control of basically running the entire operation. She runs the culling. She's the one that's like the television producer who produces the whole, massacre experience. Then you have a stupid husband who basically he's just a little sidekick, who is played by Charlito Copley. That's Glenn Van der Kooi. He basically is just a voice piece. And there's a great moment with him and Boy, which I will not spoil. You then have Brent Gelman as Gideon Van der Kooi, who is also, I guess, one of the other brains in the operation to make sure that everything is run smoothly. But he's also tired of not being appreciated by Melanie and, of course, the mother Hilda. So there's kind of backpedaling back and forth between her and by him and Melanie Van der Kooi. Which is interesting to see, which does play a part in the plot. You then, of course, have this character, which I thought was fantastically well done. This is June 27, who has this helmet on, where when she's got the helmet on, she cannot speak. So when she cannot speak, when she must want to reply to somebody talking to her, across the visor of her helmet, there's words that appear across the visor, which I think was really, a nice touch there. And obviously, the character of June 27 is played by Jessica Roth, who's a fantastic actor and does a fantastic role in this. And there's some great fight sequences between her and Boy. June 27 and Boy. So Bill Skarsgård and Jessica Roth did a fantastic job. Then you have another great character called Basho, who was played by Andrew Koji, who I thought did a fantastic job as well. Andrew Koji, as you know, is from the show Warriors. does a fine job in this. He actually brings he brings something different. I've never seen him like this in a movie. He's very like over the top. He's very like aggressive the way he talks. He's very kind of crazy. In the character of that he plays, Basho, is part of the resistance that are trying to take down the Van der Kooi Empire, and so he's really really a fun character. And the only thing I will say about this, the negative, is you don't really spend a lot of time developing other characters outside of Boy. You just get, I guess, the main character that you're focusing on, of course, is Boy. And you get the backstory, you get the great voiceovers, you get the great over-the-top action, but you don't get much build-up when it comes to building relationships and bond for other characters. It's basically an adrenaline rush. I say that again, an adrenaline rush to get from one action sequence to the next action sequence, to get the next gory bloody moment to the next gory bloody moment. But that's the fun thing about it. It's not a thinking film. It's just a wham bam, thank you, ma'am. Fun, all out there action comedy with not much of a detailed plot on other than trying to take down this powerful family. And there is a real twist at the end, which, a lot of people believe this is predictable. I didn't think it was predictable because I thought how they edited the scenes, how they, did the storytelling in this film. I really, really didn't see it coming. I think why I didn't see it come because I was distracted by the comedy elements with the performance of Bill Skarsgård and the voice-over work, and then of course the amazing action sequences and fight scenes. There's a particular henchman called Glenn who's off the fucking box. He's crazy. He's absolutely off the trolley. The fight sequence with him and Boy is my favorite fight sequences in the whole film. It was really well executed. And then the grand final at the Van der Kooi, I guess, television compound, where they're about to do the culling again, and then obviously Boy is now there, and he's now on the set against all these, animation characters, these people in costuming and watching the slaughtering and the massacre go on there. That's a great fight sequence as well. But I guess the negative is you don't really bond with other characters or really have a backstory for other characters outside of Boy. It's like a one-man mission. And of course, another character that we really need to pay attention to, which you don't really get much information on right at the beginning of the film until the end, is the shaman. Now, the shaman is a really, really interesting character. And, he is the man that has taught Boy to go out there and become this killing machine. But maybe there's some twists and turns when it comes to this character. But overall, if I had to rate Boy Kills World, I'm going to rate it high, and I'm going to give it, just because I really enjoyed it, and because at the beginning of the year we had a number of well-known action films, and this has been a great year for action. We've had The Beekeeper, we had John Wick 4, or did John Wick 4 come out last year? My mind's went blank. Then we had, of course, The Monkey Man. Now we've just had Deadpool versus Wolverine. We had Civil War. We've had a number of well-known, really decent action movies come out this year, where action kind of took a back pedal, to like the MCU. That was, the main focus, where people were going to watch action movies and all that, where some action films just haven't delivered in the last few years, where this year has been a strong year for action films. And because this kind of flew under the radar for so long and then just made its appearance, I would definitely say this deserves, for me, and just because I enjoyed it, a 9 out of 10. So all of the cast in this were fantastic. The the climax of this really surprised me. There's a really great battle sequence between Boy and two other individuals that, it's gory, it's action packed, and it really, really delivers. So that's my opinion on Boy Meets World. And going back to Bill Skarsgård, like I say, he uses no words in this. He is mute in this. He's deaf, and he does not have a single word said in this movie. He can only lip read. So to see his acting performance being done via more by physical acting, by facial expression, he really does and delivers a great other performance, and it once again showcases him as a versatile actor. So, where do we go from here? Well, it's time to talk about the film on everybody's lips or everyone's mind that is being critically panned and is being considered the worst film of the year, if not potentially one of the worst remakes ever made. And I'm talking about The Crow. So, will I feel the same as everybody else? So, to talk about The Crow, let's take a quick look at this film and then we'll talk about it.
What's the first thing you liked about me?
I thought that you were quite brilliantly broken.
You feel like my person?
You feel like my person.
What's the worst thing you've ever done?
I saw things. I shouldn't have seen any of it.
Shelley! Shelley! Please don't do that!
When someone dies,
A crow carries their soul to the land of the dead. But sometimes something so bad happens that the soul cannot rest. Until you put the wrong things right. You were given the power of a god. But you're running out of time to save her.
I'm gonna kill them. Every single one of them.
And killed you.
Yeah, you did.
We have a problem. He came for us.
First impulse. Anger. It's not anger. It's love.
Look at what you've become. You know that love promises only pain. You have no idea what hell awaits you. No, I do.
How many people have you loved?
I'll never be alone.
So So there we have the Crow trailer. So let's talk about it. So as you can see by the trailer, I remember doing my trailer reaction, and I said, you know, straight away there was a lot of negativity via how he looked. Of course, you know, the Crow, like any other iconic character, has a signature look. Of course, and this includes, you know, this version, you know, James O. Barr created The Crow way back as a graphic novel. Now, I don't know much about the graphic novel. I'll be truthfully honest. But I have seen the original 1994 Crow. Obviously, a lot of people in this were announced, and there was a lot of backlash because, of course, because of the original Crow movie, which has become, you know, iconic. It's now become, you know, legendary. It is now, you know, a cult classic. And certain films, a lot of people know, should not be touched. Certain films should remain as they are and should remain the classics. But like I said earlier, into modern, you know, society, into today's modern Hollywood, anything is up for grabs. Anything sacred is not sacred anymore. And unfortunately, that's just the times we're living in. Even DJ Anubis, who loves the movie Jaws, he just says, just you wait, just you wait. There'll be a new Jaws one day, and he's probably right. He's probably right. You know, it's like the Goonies. I look at the Goonies as one of my childhood favorite movies, and Back to the Future. There's going to be, you know, another Back to the Future one day, many years down the line, hopefully. The Goonies, the sequel for that, is constantly being brought up every few years. Guaranteed one day it'll happen, and whether we like it or not. Unfortunately, like I say, that is today's society, that is today's Hollywood. You know, the well of originality has run its course and it's dry. Except you get the odd director who comes up with a good idea, like Boy Kills World, or Everything Everywhere All at Once, another film I'll high out there, which was original and a lot of fun as well. So, like I say, I did not know much about the graphic novel. I have seen the original Crow from 1994, but not for a very long time. And I know instantly the backlash was, how can you, you know, remake a movie? Because one, it was Brandon Lee's last performance, and it obviously touching that alone, you know, it's a lot of, you know, a lot of sour grapes behind, you know, wanting them to remake this because of that movie. But it wasn't just because of Brandon Lee's performance that The Crow became, you know, cult status. It's because it's just a generally good movie. You know, it's just a generally good, fun, you know, dark, gothic, comic book based movie. It's not just because of the incident with Brandon Lee. Of course, it has a big part to play in that. But I think you should also look at the movie itself away from the incident and just take it for the fun and the dark and the gothic comic book, you know, fun movie that it was. Like, I'm a big fan, like I mentioned before, of Hellboy. Now, I liked Ron Perlman's Hellboy. There was a lot of backstage politics happened in the 2019 reboot of Hellboy. Now, this new Hellboy, it's getting made with more creative control by Mike Mignola, the creator, and it's being made by a lesser well-known studio. So for me, this looks like a lot of fun and being made in the right way. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because it plays a part in this, what I'm about to say. So, here we go. Let's have a look at The Crow 2024. So, The Crow is a 2024 American Gothic superhero film directed by Rupert Sanders from a screenplay of Zach Baylin and William Schneider. A reboot of the Crow film series, it is the fifth film in the franchise and is the second film after the 1994 film to adapt the 1989 comic book series by James O'Barr. The film stars Bill Skarsgård as Eric the Crow, a man who is resurrected to avenge the deaths of himself and his girlfriend, played by FKA Twigs. So there you go. So first things first, I'm going to be honest. When the film started, when I seen it in theatres, I was the only one in the screen, may I add. So that tells you how popular this thing is. And I caught an early screening. So I had the whole film to myself, the whole theatre. So I got to see this and take it all in with no distractions, nothing else around me. So I'll mention that. So the first thing I will say is I thought this film started with a strong start. You start off with the character Eric, which I do know a lot of people are not happy that this version of The Crow is named after Eric, of the version from the 1994 movie and the actual graphic novel, but they don't call him by his surname like they did in the 1994 film, which I believe, if I'm right, what was the name of the character? Eric Draven. So they don't actually call him Eric Draven, they just call him Eric. So it starts off where you see him and you see flashbacks of him at, I guess, his family farm, where you see a horse basically wrapped round in barbed wire and is seriously injured, and he's trying to get rid of the barbed wire off the horse. You then see his ill mother lying there, I'm assuming dying. And, you know, you see him as a young child grieving, you know, what is going on with this poor animal. And, of course, with his mother. It then flashes forward where he's in some rehabilitation centre and he's being mocked by other people in the centre. You see him go to therapy sessions and all of this stuff. So it really starts strong where you see him, this very, you know, depressed, very, you know, this person who is suffering from these mental anguishes, and he's also obviously has substance abuse issues, and he's probably used them to deal with, you know, the grief of things that's gone on in his past, and how he's been badly, you know, mentally abused in the head with all of this grief and all of the torture that he puts himself through. You then skip after that particular strong start to seeing the next character, who is played by Twigs, which I think's a weird name, by the way. Just, you know, my opinion. So anyway, you see that character who is Shelley, who basically, you see Shelley, and basically she gets a phone call from her friend who basically says to her, you know, somebody sent her some video of basically this, you know, high up, you know, member of society, and, you know, some really negative video footage of, you know, criminal activities going on. And she gets told by her friend that if you are to ever show this footage, or if you keep this footage, you will be killed. And as of course, what does Shelley do? She decides not to delete the footage. She decides to keep the footage. And obviously, the main villain, Danny Hudson, who plays Vincent Rogue, a demonic crime lord, he basically knows she has this footage, and he goes after her. He sends his henchmen after her. So what does Shelley do? She decides to hide out in this rehabilitation centre where she meets Eric. And, you know, they then bond. They get close together. Then, Danny Hudson, obviously Vincent Rogue's men and henchmen discover where she is because, of course, her friend who originally gave her the phone call to tell her that you need to delete this footage, she is found by the henchmen, is tortured, and Danny Hudson has, he's not just a gangster, he also has made a pact with the devil, and the pact of the devil is if he sends the devil innocent souls, he can live forever. So he has this ability where he whispers in somebody's ears and he makes them kill themselves. So of course, Shelley's friend, once she's been interrogated, he then whispers in her ear and she slits her throat and she dies, and then her body's just hiding in the river. And that's how they discovered she was in this rehab facility. After that, these gangsters go to the rehab facility. Boom. Then that's when Eric and Shelley decide to escape out of nowhere and stay in some penthouse, a friend's penthouse, where Shelley and Eric suddenly fall in love. And next thing you know, they are discovered and they are both killed. Shelley ends up going to hell, or you just see her disappear, because after they are murdered, they are immersed underwater and she sinks to the bottom and he swims to the top. And that is where he begins his journey of basically self-discovery, of discovering, him becoming and eventually becoming the Crow to avenge his death and to avenge the death of Shelley. So I don't really want to talk much more about the plot because, there's not really much more to go on. I've probably fucked up the plot anyway because, watching this, it was a hard watch. I'm not going to lie. It has pacing issues. It felt like, they were changing this, they were changing the direction of the movie as it was being filmed. It felt as if part of the movie was missing. Like there were elements of this were missing, and I felt like it dragged for a very long time. So, like I say, it was a very strange watch. So first and foremost, here you have Bill Skarsgård as Eric, and there is Twigs, Shelley. And one thing I'm going to say, and this is why I put this picture up, I felt this relationship between these two characters very unconvincing. There was I did not believe in the chemistry. I felt it was false, and I felt how they got together was out of desperation. They are both people that are basically, on substance abuse. He obviously has more things going on. He had this tragic childhood. And so I believed in his elements, but when it came to the character of Shelley, the fact that she had this footage of this, gangster in the possession, and she gets told, if you don't get rid of the footage, you will be killed. And she decides to keep the footage. One is a stupid move on her part. And when she's with Eric, for me, it didn't come across like they were in love. It came across like she was using him. In my opinion, she had him wrapped around her little finger. It was like two drug-fueled people that basically got together, banged in a hotel room, and then they were in love because the feeding of the addiction, and it didn't not feel like a loving relationship. And I don't know if it's me. I didn't mind some of his performance. Bill Skarsgård's performance in this was believable, but there were other parts when he was in the film through it. I felt as if he checked out. I genuinely believe he checked out, and I believe it is as the film progressed after its kind of decent, strong start with his background, and then you have a whole 20 minutes of her background, which was unnecessary to get them to the part where they finally meet up. I believe somewhere down the line, things were changed. There was something wrong with the production of this film, and he basically checked out. And it sounds, and when it comes to, the actress Twigs, I just didn't believe in her performance in this film. And that's just me being honest. She could be a fine actress, but the chemistry just wasn't there. And I really didn't find her a favourable character. I found her to be an annoying character throughout the film. In the 20 minutes that she was on, with her backstory and her and Eric's love story growing and getting together, I just found it very unconvincing. Where in the original 1994 film, which I haven't seen in a long time, I believed in it. I do remember the relationship between Eric and the love interest in there. I think, was it Sarah was the love interest in the 1994 film? I'm not quite, just jog my memory. Was it? Yes, it was Sarah. So Sarah for me in Eric in that film, the relationship and the bond for me was a hell of a lot stronger, and it didn't take half, I guess the first full half hour of the movie to get there. The way they did it, it was done quicker, but it felt real. It felt more believable, where this felt forced. As for the villain, Danny Hudson, he's not really in the movie that long. You just have basic scenes, and they basically set up his story very quickly. He basically, he's a demonic gangster, a gangster with this demonic, ability where he can live forever. He's immortal as long as he feeds Satan's souls. And, that's basically it. And obviously, there is a connection with him and Shelley, which is revealed later on in the film, where it really changes the perception of her and made me dislike her even more, and made me think, you know what, you have just used Eric all along as like a personal bodyguard. It's, a quick bit of fun. I did not believe they were in love. It didn't feel that way. It just felt forced, like I said before. And, there's a scene where he gets the phone of Shelley's old phone, and he finds this footage, which also implicates her as well, and implicates her in some incident that happened where she's not seen in a very positive light, and it really questions him, and changes his perspective on her. But then he still decides, you know what? I still want to go after the bad guys because they've ended my life. They killed me, they killed her, and I still love her. But for me, it just wasn't believable, and for me, it wasn't realistic. That's just my opinion of that part of the plot. The cinematography, one thing I have to give this thing some positives. So it's a long build up from the backstories of the two leads, of Eric and Shelley. The villain's introduced quickly. You basically get his plot down. You're then introduced to him, and when they finally kill Shelley and Eric, which takes a long time, and he ends up in Purgatory, which is a giant warehouse full of these crows and things like that. You kind of drift away, and because it's taking you that long to get there, you kind of switch off. And this is, and even after you're introduced to the Purgatory part, where he's this restless soul that hasn't been carried away and is being brought back because he's still, he's not at peace. He's then introduced to Kronos, which is a character which is basically telling him basically what has happened to him. This is why you're here, you're a restless soul. You cannot save Shelley, she's lost. And he gives him the power to go back to life to revenge her death. And he feels pain every time he's hit or shot, which was a great, realistic feel and element to the plot in the story. But in all, because of the pacing and because it dragged that long to get to the bits where he eventually gained his powers, was investigating these individuals, were after Shelley and have killed him and killed her, you kind of like lose attention in the film. You do. You lose attention in the film. I was sitting there like this in the theater thinking, when's the action going to start? Then you would get a little, flash in the pan of a bit of action of a gunshot getting shot or getting his leg hit and broke and then it repairing itself. And it just didn't grab me interest. It didn't grab me interest in the way it should, but the filmography, when it came to the fight scene, when we finally got there, which is right at the end in the theater, was really fun. I enjoyed the theater action sequences. Like this sequence is a good sequence in the theater where the man's got the gun to his head and he blows through himself to kill the man behind him, the henchman. That was a great sequence. When he finally kills all the bad guys and he walks out under the main stage and he throws the severed heads, that was a great scene. But it just felt like, why did it take this long to get there? Where with the 1994 Crow, which obviously had a lot more love put into it, which people read the material, people understood the material, people paid attention to the story and the characters, and they made a very well crafted, very, great, adaptation of the original graphic novel, where this feels like once they got the rights or got permission by the author to create a new Crow film, they took the graphic novel, they looked at little bits, they put like a magic marker, a highlight pen, they put a highlight pen through certain scenes and right, we'll do that one, we'll make this happen. And then after they've done that, they've thrown the book away and they've built everything else around it, which is original and just not well crafted. It just does not feel like a well-crafted film. It feels like they just once they got the rights to make the remake, it was like, bang, we've now got the rights. You can't get out of it. We'll just add little bits to make it feel familiar to what The Crow is, but then make it into something totally different. Now, this, I could say this, you have Godzilla 1998. It's got Godzilla in the title, but do I consider that a Godzilla film? We have to because it's named Godzilla, but for me, that isn't Godzilla. It should have been called Lizard in the City. It's a great, that though is a great monster flick, a great kaiju flick. It has some redeeming qualities. Unfortunately for the Crow remake, it has no redeeming qualities. And it's such a shame that Bill Skarsgård, who I believe has even went out there and has said himself publicly he wasn't happy with the final film. He wasn't happy with the ending of the film. And it seems to me that they've looked at films like John Wick, and they've basically made this into like not a true adaptation of the Crow character in Gothic comic or graphic novel. They've tried to make this an action sequence with an action film, with the Crow title above it. That's what they've done. They've basically made John Wick with the Crow as the title. That's what they've tried to do, because they've tried to do what they did with John Wick, where you have these characters who are that aren't really people you should be rooting for, not in this version, because they both, have addictions. He's going through not just addiction issue, but mental issue. She, for me, just wasn't a fun or believable character or somebody I liked. I didn't like her in this. So you've got, like, in John Wick, he lost his wife, he lost his dog. They tried to give you that sympathetic touch, but it did not work. And then do the whole, learning about, what's going on with her, what's going on with him, why has he come back from the dead, trying to understand it all and finally accept it all and accept who he is. Like, in other action movie, and then when you finally get there, that's when he turns into the the action hero, and he goes out on a killing spree and kills the bad guys. Basically, that's what they did. They tried to make this John Wick with the name The Crow above it. That's how I feel about this film, and unfortunately, it didn't work. It didn't have any emotional attachments. It dragged, the pacing issue was off. It felt like that there were bits missing in the plot. It felt like Bill Skarsgård had checked out. By halfway through, it felt like he was just pushing through to get this damn thing finished. And like I say, Twig, she might be a lovely person. She could be a better actress and other thing, but I did not like her in this. And Danny Hudson, he can play an amazing villain. Like I said before, the great thing about actors, you can be a great actor in terrible films. Just remember to be great in them. He does what he does best. He did become a believable villain, but even that couldn't save this. So it has nothing on the original Crow. That felt gothic. It felt like a true adaptation of the original Crow. This literally, basically, is just trying to be Crow for a new generation with no real substance or connection to the real material that it's based on. And for that alone, this is going to get a very low rating for me. And I'm going to rate this 3 out of 10. Why? Because not even Danny Hudson could save this. Great cinematography and some of the lights, the colours, and the theatre, action sequence, which comes right at the end. The only real main action sequence in this, you would think for a film that paced along the way it did, that when you did finally deliver the action, it would be one hell of an action sequence. And it wasn't. It was blink and you miss it. But there were some shining moments which I've displayed on the screen. Throwing the severed heads into the audience, getting a gun and blasting yourself in the stomach to kill the bad guy behind you. That's probably the only 2 highlights of this film. So there you go. That is my opinion of The Crow. With all that said, I'm going to go back to Bill Skarsgård before I wrap this up. He is a fine actor. This is 2 examples where he had a film that didn't really get the attention that it did, that deserved more attention and more praise for just being a fun, adrenaline rush movie with a great cast, great performance, great action, great bloody gore moments, and just an overall fun film. And then you have another movie where he did his very best to, act in it, deliver what he was told to, that was written on the page that he wrote when he read this, that he read when he read the script. And I do believe it's not his fault that this turned out bad. I believe it's all down to the director, the producers, and the film studios not actually giving a damn about the original material that this actual story and character is based on. It's John Wick with the title The Crow above it. It ain't The Crow. So, like I say, I think I give Boy Kills World 9 out of 10 and The Crow gets 3 out of 10. But that's just my opinion. Don't rule Bill Skarsgård out. I believe he's still a fine actor, and I believe he will have some more amazing performances in the future. I just don't believe The Crow is a film that, is for him. I believe probably regrets doing it now, but that's just my opinion, and that's why I decided to do this double review. What's your opinion of The Crow, if you actually got off your arse and seen it in theaters, which I think a lot of people aren't gonna bother with? And please, if you have not, check out Boy Kills World. It's not the greatest of films, but it's a fun film. I will say that. But until then, this has been the Entertainment Headquarters. This has been a double review, and it's also, something that I've had a lot of time to think about. And yeah, Bill Skarsgård's a fine actor. Check out Boy Kills World, and I guarantee you'll probably be disappointed in The Crow. Until then, keep loving your movies, keep on loving all things entertainment, and I'll catch us all at the next one.
Thank you.